What is up, you beautiful people out there? I'm Joe, here with the lovely Nicole.
Hey guys.
We are Scalp Logic, and today we're going to talk about the mood ring effect.
Essentially, SMP looks different in different lighting. I mean, it looks completely
different.
That's
it. This is not to be confused with the immediate results, which we're always talking about, right? This is completely different.
You'll look at one picture of a guy in a dark room, right? Or in a club, whatever. Then you'll see somebody in sunlight. And I mean, you're almost like, wait, is that the same treatment? Is that before he had it done? Is that after? I don't understand. So
it's true.
I think elaborating a little bit about
anyone who has SMP can most certainly attest to this.
Please comment.
Again, yeah, we would love to hear. Again, everyone's got their own story, so I'd love to hear it through your words.
Yes.
But yeah, that's exactly the point. Especially guys, what comes to mind when I say this are guys who don't have the best treatment, and they find that certain room or that certain lighting where it does look good, right? But then they hide from the good lighting, you know, the bathroom, the beach, the gym maybe, where the lighting's really good and you can kind of see everything. You can't hide any discrepancies. That's what we're talking about. So let's say someone's in Illinois. We have a lot of guys from Illinois. They did 3 sessions, they got some results, but not the final result yet. It's too light for their liking. So they're going out for a dinner date. What's the best move? So the best move is to shave their head tight. Of course, all the results healed, I'm assuming.
Absolutely, yes.
And if they find dim lighting, even though the result is way too light for their liking, the best environment for them is going to be dim lighting. I'm thinking like a nice fine dining restaurant where it's like almost dark in there, right? The SMP is going to pop, the frame's going to pop out, and it's going to be like, you know what? I don't need another session. I love where I'm at.
Yes.
That same guy, you know, let's say he stays in there. It's like you can't see the sun, and it's super dark. And you go in there at nighttime, everything's great, and you stay in there for like 8 hours, and the sun's rising at 6 a.m. And you walk outside. That same guy who had that awesome hairline is now looking like every other bald guy.
Yeah.
Where's the SMP? I can't even see one dot in the lighting.
And they're frustrated, like, hey, hold on, what's going on? What's going on?
And in 2020, at the age of 45, there was this one image, and it shows basically that David has a short haircut, and because he's right under the sun, it's exposing some of the transparency and some of the scalp show. He grows his hair out. He's overall showing then thicker, healthier hair.
It trips you out. Any guy who has SMP, again, I'd love to hear your comment. It literally baffles your mind. It baffles my mind and your mind. But it can be really frustrating when it's like, hey, it looks really good here, I'm good to go. And then they hop in the car and they're like, where'd it go?
Yep.
You know, car, typically they see it pretty well. But
I would say that, like, I get calls, right? And that's the first step, is like when guys are wanting to get it lasered off, they're like, okay, it looks so good when I'm at the club. It looks amazing when I'm at a deep, dark dinner. But then the minute I go on the light, I cringe.
Yeah.
And the minute I'm in a fitting room is the one that I've been getting a lot lately.
Fitting room.
When I'm in a fitting room and I'm seeing myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really, really bad. It looks so bad that I just like want to hide. And that's when they identify, this treatment is too dark. Where they realize, I need to get this removed. I want something that's natural and light.
Understood. So you're talking in reference to the guys who do end up realizing that their SMP is too dark. Because there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of guys out there. And I'll say this to the consumers out there who maybe are considering SMP but haven't gotten it done yet. You know, that's it's a huge consideration. Look at the healed results. Just look at the healed results. I don't know what else to say.
Almost, you kind of want it to be lighter in the sun. Essentially, that's what it is you want it to be natural in the sun. You want it to be natural in darker light. You don't want it too dark in dark light. It's that balance, I would say, when it comes to SMP.
I hope you'll look at some other SMP providers and take notice now of the lighting that they showcase the results in. I know there's one video, this is the fireside chat. I know I've heard about it. It's not fair to consumers to say, this is what life's like. Check me out in this dark lighting. Can you see my face in the shadow? We're trying to show up close results. So that's all. You know, look, don't be fooled by dim lighting, by dark lighting. Understand it's your best friend if you're a consumer, if you have this done. But being a bald guy, first and foremost, it's bad enough being insecure about your hair loss. To have an inky head and to hide from good lighting, it makes me cringe. You know, it makes me want to give someone a hug and say, dude, there's so many better options out here. You don't have to hide. I think a lot of people underestimate how different SMP will look on the same guy. And I'll add to all this information, you know, we do typically 4 or 5 sessions. So we'll have a lot of guys after 4 sessions, they call us, say, hey, I'm not sure if I want a 5th session.
That's it.
I think I want to schedule something in 2 months. And what happens 80% of the time, the ink continues to settle in, right, throughout the months. and it almost gives it looks fuller. Essentially what I'm trying to get at is those guys, 80% of the time, they don't call again within that monthly period. Maybe they'll call next year and they'll keep that 5th session in their pocket.
I think explaining a little bit more, like why does it move? I think explaining, and even in between the sessions, why does it look so, bare at certain times?
Very good. Okay, so the way we describe it to our clients is, let's say just a wall. Most people are familiar with a wall of paint, right? In your typical house. And let's say you paint a wall with, let's say, a gray color, okay? And it's been dried for a year. That color has been in your living room, your bedroom for a year. If you were to repaint that wall, or just a spot with that same paint, that new paint color is gonna look like a completely different shade, right? When it's fresh.
Absolutely.
And it takes what, like 6 to 12 hours or a day to dry? Once that paint dries all together, then it's like, oh, okay, everything blends in and it looks like the exact same shade.
And then you see the final result.
Same process with SMP, but it takes about 3 to 7 days for the curing process, the drying process, right? So it doesn't dry in 1 day and 24 hours like a wall of paint. It takes about 3 to 5 days, 7 days, and then that's the initial onset of the fresh ink. After that, 3 to 7 days, let's call it 7 days, after a week, you have the final result. After that final result, it's like the most subtle, slow drip process where it continues to settle into the skin, settles into the skin, settles into the skin. And again, this is why it's so hard to answer questions with blanket answers, because, one guy, this ink won't move. On another guy, the ink is just gonna fade away. It's almost like there's a vacuum in his skin making the ink. So, typical average client, the ink is going to continue to settle in, and as it does that, it's going to expand slightly as well, right? I'm talking on a microscopic level here. We're talking just on the surface. I mean, these are things you won't see with the naked eye, right? You'd have to take picture 1,000 days in a row to see the difference, right? Very, very subtle. But nonetheless, the ink is continuing to settle in. That's what's happening. Yeah.
What would you say to the guys that are in the dark light and they love it, but they go into the light and they cringe?
I would say life is short, man. Remove it. You're lying to yourself. And I say that, I'm talking to myself, really. But I think it applies to most guys. I didn't know how bad mine was until I removed it. I'll say that.
That's kind of true.
I didn't know how bad it was.
That's kind of true.
You lie to yourself. I'm like, oh, it looks good, or I stand back here. What you're doing is you're placing restrictions on your life. It's self-imprisonment as far as I see it. And then again, life is short. Make a move. The move is to remove it. If you don't love SMP and you're happy being bald, that's the whole game anyway. Be happy. But if you're being honest with yourself, most people, that frame makes all the difference in life. So if you're cringing at looking at your bald head or your botched SMP, definitely call us. We can help.
What would you say to the gentlemen that they look at themselves in the mirror and they have almost the perception of what they look at, but then what other people see is a different reality? Does that make sense?
Oh, this is good. Yeah, guys are lost.
Yes.
To answer your question outright, guys don't know what looks good. When I see a guy that grows their hair out like this, or I always reference LeBron James wearing the hairpiece. I make my jokes, but I also know that inside that super famous man who's super wealthy and has a legendary whatever, he's got pain inside because he has hair loss. And I'm like, oh, I hurt for him. I know, I just want to rip it off of him. There's a graceful way to be bald.
Yes.
Having this frame to your face, it's no different than a guy reaching for a hat, his favorite cowboy hat or baseball hat. Really, you're getting that frame to your face.
You want to be the best version of yourself.
You want to look your best, but you also don't want to be painstakingly hiding in a bathroom, putting stuff on, putting product on.
Often.
And again, I was that guy in my mid-20s, my young 20s. I was putting makeup in my hair. My roommates had no idea.
I didn't know you were losing your hair in high school. Sorry, another sidetrack. But that's insane to think about.
Well, it just started. I just started losing my temple area. I didn't know if it was a bad hairline and I just noticed, which is what I told myself because it felt better, or if I was actually starting to lose my hair that early. It's the mood ring effect, guys.